All right, so let's just based off of time, let's move on to our last question here. This one's going to be interesting because this is all about solutions, and how we're going to keep score of this is each point is worth double. So we got that. Each point is worth double. So your remarks on this particular question are going to be the game changer, and we could potentially see who's the winner when it comes to this particular debate here. So we'll start off with Jeff here. What are the solutions?
All right, double jeopardy, love it. Solutions, very simple. We have two clear solutions, I think, and one is one that will, actually I think both are things that will help, would have helped a year ago and could still help now in the position we are actually in. So the first solution is exactly what the president just did, and I actually mean nothing about the tech surge. They pulled that out of some book that they used in our past wars. Yeah, let's just make it a tech surge. That fixes everything. The thing that was actually done that I think will have the most impact was taking one of the cabinet members and putting them directly in control of this project. Because, like I said before, the whole of the problem is that there was no one responsible, or seemed to be no one responsible, and if there was someone responsible, they didn't have the power to do what they needed to do. Putting a cabinet member on there, I know you guys have said it, President probably has more stuff to do than QA a website. I'd hope so, but hopefully we can pull off one of these cabinet members and devote every single day to getting it done and holding people responsible. Number two is the other solution is that there should have been a framework in place for integrating all the pieces 2 years ago. I have a friend who's in the software development industry, and they actually build software for running agile projects and the software that manages those projects, and talk to him about what on earth could they have done. And his answer was the Scaled Agile framework. It's called SAFe, and a lot of people have seen it around. The whole point of that system is a way to make Agile work across a whole bunch of distributed entities. And basically, to sum it up in 5 seconds, is it makes sure that every 8 weeks there's an integration checkpoint. And so you do a couple of sprints, and then by that time you're integrating with everybody else. So there is no way to go more than 2 months without finding out that the whole process doesn't work, or your whole system that you built doesn't work.
Thanks, Jeff. John, your response.
Well, I agree with Jeff when he mentioned Obama signing a cabinet member. I think that is really helpful. I think one of the things that I do like actually is the tech surge. And it's been pretty nondescript in terms of exactly what that tech surge involved, but I think from the very beginning, they should have gotten more members from the startup community involved in planning a project like this. Because I think startup developers in particular are in a position in which they have to figure out how to create applications that scale to massive levels in fairly quick timeframes. And so I think even now, if they have the opportunity to have somebody who's involved in the startup community involved in this project, either alongside that cabinet member or as just a higher up project manager, I think that would be potentially helpful to even bring to light some of the newer technology that does exist right now that allows you to scale to this level somewhat quicker. I'm actually going to bring up something that's a little controversial because I don't necessarily love this technology myself, but it was built specifically to deal with this type of issue, and that's something that's called Node.js. Node.js is basically a framework that was created that, well, it's more of a server technology that allows you to run JavaScript on your server. And the entire point of it is that, so JavaScript is a programming language that's conventionally used to do fun things like animations and stuff like that on the front end of a website. And one person eventually decided, well, if you can do this on the front end, why can't we just use the same programming language on the back end as well and just have one unified system that works together? And so Node.js, one of the things that it talks about is how it's scalable and how it's non-blocking. And essentially what that means is that with a website like Healthcare.gov, you have a lot of things which are called blocking issue. And a blocking issue is anything where you're stuck waiting for the website to process anything. So whether or not it's registering your username, whether or not it's figuring out whether or not you are able to purchase certain types of healthcare versus not, whether or not you're eligible for certain things. Those are all things that could potentially be blocking issues on the server end. So those are things in which you are just sitting there waiting for something to happen. So process-wise, there's a couple of things that they could have done that they couldn't have taken the book out of what startups actually normally do. So for instance, usually when startups are launching a new product, they don't just release the product at once. Usually they'll do what's called scaled implementations. So sometimes companies will have like a beta launch or something like that, where a couple people can sign up early on to test out the system. It's kind of a way for the audience to QA the thing before you actually launch it. But with Healthcare.gov, what you also could have done is just only allowed certain amounts of people to log on and register at certain different times, like create some sort of scaled system in which so many people can only sign up from October to November, and then so many people can sign up from November to December, basically allowing all these signups to be sort of scattered across the open enrollment period instead of forcing or giving the people the opportunity to all sign up at the exact same time. So that's kind of a phased rollout of the website, which I think would have prevented a lot of blocking issues. Another thing that they could have done is that when people filled out the forms on the website, instead of forcing them to just wait there until the registration completed, they could have done something where, let's say you fill out a form and register for the website. You get an email confirmation or a pop-up on your browser that says, okay, your information is now being processed. You'll receive an email from, in 24 hours potentially, that allows you to log back in and see what your results are. What that allows you to do is that instead of forcing the user to sit there and use up server power to process your form, it allows you to basically sign up, give all the information to the server, and then just go and do something else. And the server takes care of it and informs you of when it's finished. And so that's kind of the whole principle behind Node.js on the programmatic level. That's what non-blocking means. And so with something like Node.js, what happens is that essentially you're never really waiting for the server to do anything. You're allowed to just kind of go about doing whatever you want on the website or leave the website if you want, and the server will be working on the back end and be able to tell you when it's finished, essentially. And so those are kind of the things that I think if they wanted to implement even now, they still could, and I think it would be helpful.
Thank you, John, for that response. And Mark, enlighten us on the solutions.
I shall. So, brilliant insights, but I would say these are narrow fixes, and what we have much bigger than bright ideas, a much bigger problem is politics and organizational behavior. So I'm going to dangerously delve into this perspective, which is that we have, from time to time, rare as it may be, we've had a site that didn't go perfectly well. And what we have found is that after a site does not go perfectly well, there's two ways it can go. One is that we and the client work together as hard as we can to get it fixed, and it's very collaborative and it's very supportive environment. The other one is anger, blame, justification. And I think those are very unproductive to actually fixing the issue. People start to spend their energy in justifying and defending and not in how can we all work together to get this done. And I think that based on some of the comments that were made by some of the contractors, I think we're in a scenario, and I can't blame them, where people are very nervous about being blamed and reputations, and that is that's not the type of culture you need to have to solve something as big as this. You need everybody willing to drop those axes of what's been done, what went wrong in the past, and just say, let's roll up our sleeves and get this done. And I think somehow the government and the people in charge of all the contractors need to be careful not to, you need to actually create that kind of environment.
Mark, I'm nominating you to be our next congressperson, because if you can actually make that happen, you will solve so many problems in our world. I'm all for it.
All right, so I believe we got a really good understanding today of the fundamental errors and issues involved with Healthcare.gov. We hope you as viewers got a very, very good understanding of the process of whether or not this is a solvable problem. And thank you for really attending our hangout today. And we'll be having more of these as time goes by. But just send you off in a very good manner. I want each of these individuals to just provide last remarks based off of the topic. And we'll start off with Jeff.
All right, closing thoughts. I feel pretty bad for everybody involved. The people running the show know basically nothing about development. I don't expect every congressperson to be a hacker, but they are completely ignorant of what their decisions affect. And this is, this is a problem. With government in general, actually, is having people who don't know much about a topic making all the decision for it. And our government, unfortunately, is so polarized at the moment that you've got two groups who hate each other, who are making decisions to, run a giant development project. So overall, I don't know why this wasn't reconciled a year ago. Somebody was not listening to the cries of the development contractors. Maybe they weren't allowed to yell. I don't know. But people knew how bad this was going for a long time, and I think that they've been preparing their excuses for the past few months.
John, give us your last remarks about Healthcare.gov.
Yeah, I would say that I also have deep empathy for everyone involved. I can't imagine that anybody is happy with the way this turned out, and I can't imagine that this is the process that they ideally would have wanted. I think this is just kind of a reality of social loafing on a very grand scale. There's a lot of people involved, and as more people get involved, just the exponential amount of errors that can occur just piles on one another. And I think the reality too is that we also have to remember that the scope of this project is huge. It's not something that is easy to do. I mean, when you think about how difficult it is to build a website that connects to so many different systems and pulls information, private data, together into one system. I mean, it was a very bold, very ambitious project. I'm really glad that they tried to do it. Quite honestly, I don't know if this would have ever succeeded in the first place. Because we keep talking about the website and the website backend, but we don't even know what it's like to connect to the rest of these systems that are held by hospitals and insurance providers and all those people who actually hold this data and send back information towards the website of what sort of health insurance you should apply for. So I think there are just so many different pieces here, some of which is very difficult for us to see. The government themselves may not even necessarily know what's going on in some of these back-end systems. So I think it's kind of one of those things that you're sort of doomed to fail from the very beginning. I don't really think there was much hope to begin with, and I think now we're just starting to see the reality of how difficult development is. It isn't Lego blocks. You don't just make stuff and just put it together. It's engineering on the highest degree. It is very hard. It's difficult to integrate. Things are not designed to integrate necessarily, and so you have to build those mechanisms, and it's just difficult.
All right, Mark, finish us off with some words of wisdom.
I like what John was saying. Development is extremely difficult, and sometimes in our job we have customers who will say something like, "Oh, well, just make my site responsive," or "just do this," like it's turning on a button. And it is extremely complex and difficult. And I think that one of the great things that could come out of this is a respect and a almost raising the consciousness of everybody in this country about how challenging some of this is and not taking some things for granted. We look at the Golden Gate Bridge and the Hoover Dam as wonders of engineering, but every time I do a Google search and I get a result in in 10 milliseconds, to me that is truly miraculous. You think about the wonders that we experience every day, and it shouldn't be taken for granted. There really are wizards out there that are making things like this work. So hopefully they'll be applied to the fix. The surge, those kind of people would come in and rescue the day.
All right, gentlemen. Well, this pretty much wraps up our first episode of our Carbon8 Hangout. And, to wrap things up, we take a look at the official leaderboard. And winner for today's discussion, based off of in-depth insights and detailed knowledge of the specific area that we were talking about today of Healthcare.gov, is John. Congratulations, John. Second place, we have Jeff, providing great insights on the development side and programming side. Number 2 is Jeff. And Mark, with his words of wisdom, excellent insights. Unfortunately, did not quite get up to the level of where John and Jeff were, but it was
Jimmy, I'm so sorry. There's an emergency. I've got to go.
Well, we all know what's going to happen next when it comes to the result of the winners and losers. And if you're interested in seeing the end result, we're actually going to post some images of the scene in our blog. So make sure that you continue to subscribe to our channel for more information, for more videos. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/carbon8 marketing. Then you can also follow us on Twitter at /carbon8ed or carbonated. Or you can just follow us at going to carbon-8.com and go to our blog where you'll see the great insights and actually see the winners and losers of today's match. So we appreciate everybody viewing this video today, and we hope you keep following us. Thank you, guys.